Okay, everybody, we are here today with Cassandra the Wolverine Khaw. I don't know if that'll stick, but we're going to run with it. When we first signed up for this, you and I were going to do this interview. We did not realize just how well Library at Hellebore was going to do yet. So I am glad to see it's on the bestseller list. And I know you just had a huge book tour going on.
Oh God,
Uh,
yeah.
first question, one I always ask, and then we'll get into some other stuff. What is your supervillain origin story?
It was purely accidental. Sometimes evil just finds someone. I was actually trained to be a computer engineer, and I ended up in business development in video games, and then that led to writing for games. And then out of the blue, a friend who was doing a Kickstarter was like, "Do you want to write a whole novel for me?" And I've never written a novel in my life. I don't count the one I wrote when I was 9. I wrote it for him, of course, because I was a starving journalist and what have you at that moment. And it was terrible. And at some point, I was like, I should probably learn how to do this writing thing better. And it just, one thing led to another. I started working on short fiction, and then short fiction became novellas, novellas became book deals, and here we are.
Gotcha. I love how he just jumped into novel. Not like, do you want to write a short story for my anthology or novella? It's like, do you want to write a novel? We're just going full bore.
My life has been very strange. That's all I can say.
Perfect. All right. So for all of the aspiring authors out there, two questions I like to ask. I'm going to do them in order. I'm not going to make you try to remember both of them. So the first one, which we'll answer first, what does a day in the life of Cassandra Khaw look like?
Average work day or like average only writing day?
Um, let's a little bit of both.
Let's see. The average day would be I usually wake up about 6 in the morning or so, get my coffee in or pass out, get a run in, feed the cats, get breakfast, start my day job. And I tend to alternate between my day job and my book writing across the span of the day. Simply because I can't necessarily maintain my focus for too long on one or the other. And because they both engage like very different sides of my brain, it feels almost like me, running away from my responsibilities when I switch from one to another. But you're both still very productive, so I benefit by the end of the day. This goes on until maybe 7, 8, whenever a friend or a loved one reminds me I need to eat and be a human being and just not just a writing machine. And then it's cats, TV, video games, books for reading, pass out cold.
And then, since it's a good segue, who are we looking at on screen right now, by the way?
That would be my that would be so here's the thing. I have this weird superstition about evil eye and what have you, and I've never shared the names of my two kitties. The big orange one is colloquially known as Big Orange, and this one here, who is much larger, actually is the tortoiseshell, shortened to Torty.
Nope, nope, that's fine. And then the other
I'll
question,
tell you after the show.
no problem. Then the other question I always like to ask is, if you had an author in front of you, doesn't have to be writing advice, but just looking for some author advice for a new author, aspiring author, what would you tell them?
Finish your work. Always finish your work. It doesn't matter how bad it is or how messy the first draft is. It's important to get to the words at the end. Because once you have a finished thing, you can decide if you want to polish it, if you want to like maybe cull certain bits and use it elsewhere, bring it to an editor, etc., etc. But nothing is going to happen until you get to the end.
And this is going to be an aside here. I know you got back from, what was it, like a 2 week and a half, 2 week book tour?
11 days? Was it
11
11
days?
days? Jesus Christ.
How nice was that bed and pillow when you got back?
So nice. I did not want to leave my bed for like 2 days straight.
Exactly. Like you
I
said,
would
that's why I
curled up.
didn't bug you. It was like, I'm going to let her get home. I'm going to let her have a night in her own bed with her own pillow, because anybody who's ever gone on vacation, you enjoy the vacation, but your pillow, that is your pillow, and you are so
Yeah.
happy to see it.
Of course, I also had screaming 3 foot long cats wanting attention, so there was that.
Well, of course. Well, you've been gone for days.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
face it,
also,
they're not as bad in dogs in some things, but in other things, they will let you know when you've been gone.
yes. Yes, they absolutely will. And it's one thing if you have a normal sized cat, but my two house lions are about the orange one is slightly shy of 3 feet long, and the tortoiseshell is like over 3 feet at this point, I think. So when they want to express an opinion, they let me know in very clear terms.
3 feet long. They didn't look as poofy. Maybe it's just that picture. Of course, I'm looking at this. This is the only picture I've got. Are they Maine Coons or are they
They're
something
both
else?
Maine Coons.
Oh, okay. Yeah, usually when you get up to about 3 feet, you've got to be talking to Maine Coon.
Yes.
That's just a very
Otherwise,
swimming
yeah.
angle for them.
Yes. I ended up with Maine Coons because like I tried to adopt cats during the pandemic, and for I was in Montreal, and I think they didn't like my applications or something, mostly because I was writing them in either really bad French or they weren't fond of the English applications over the French applications. And eventually I was like, screw it. I've always wanted a Maine Coon, so I'm gonna get a Maine Coon. And Shannon Maguire is a massive fan of Maine Coons. And I'm like, surely this is not going to be difficult for me. I have so many friends with Maine Coons. This will be fine. And then I remember all my friends with Maine Coons are above 5'7" or 5'8". I am not.
Yeah, you can almost ride your Maine Coon.
Yes. They're still growing, technically. And I'm actually genuinely afraid they will never stop.
A funny aside, actually, Shauna McGuire was my very, very first interview on the show.
Really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So yeah, I have seen the Maine Coons, or her owl, as she likes to call the one.
Elsie, I think.
Yep, yep.
I love Elsie.
But yeah, she's a blast. All right, so getting in a little bit to this book, which by the way, I loved. As I
Yay.
told people, this was kind of it was are you with I don't want to say it wrong. Trying to remember Nightfire. So that's part of Tor. Yep.
Yes.
I didn't want to say the wrong publisher. They had mentioned your book to me, and it was mentioned as kind of like if you liked naming Novik Scalomance, for instance, was one of the comps, which I did. So I thought, I'll check that out. And then as I tell people, uh, yeah, that's kind of where a lot of the comparison ends. You've got kind of a dark academia thing going on, but you went much more full tilt horror instead of, the young adult fantasy type dark academia in my opinion. But I was there for it. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. That's all I'm going to say
Yay.
about that. What was your main inspiration for this novel?
So, when I was a lot younger and I was going to go for higher education, my mom made it clear I was only allowed to go to one school in Malaysia or I wasn't going to get to go to college. And in this school, you had to wear like button ups, your skirts had to be like over the knee, you couldn't dye your hair. All of our classrooms and stuff were essentially made to look like offices. And the whole point of this place was essentially to prepare us for the workforce. All we were being made to be were cogs in the machine, very appetizing cogs in the machine. And I think some of my resentment for that like trailed me across the years, especially as after I got older, after I hit 40 especially. And like I'm in that weird, I think you know what it's like. You're at a stage where you're no longer young, but you're not old yet. And you're just kind of just standing in the middle, looking back and looking forward, like carrying both versions of yourself in that moment. And I think it really hit me. There were two things. We talk a lot about how people are afraid of youth, about how kings and tyrants will not give up their throne, and also the commoditization of youth, the way that it's marketed to women, like fear of aging and so on and so forth. But the thing that really hit me is in between all of that, our society devours our young in very, very many ways. Like internships, for example, you have people doing 70 hours doing things that they're not even qualified for, but trying so hard to be good at for, again, $6 an hour. And the promise that once you've put in your paces, once you've done the time, you too can be loved. We are given a blueprint for the future. We're told get good grades, go to college, get a good job, find somebody, marry, have kids, and things will be fine. This is how you're safe and happy. And there are just so many institutions and people in our society and our species who absolutely takes advantage of this assumption, and it tears through people and just leaves them broken and bloody, and it doesn't matter. Because at the root of it, capitalism especially just wants to devour bodies. And I think all of that just kind of like collected in me and sort of like wound itself out into this book. Sorry, I got really passionate for a second there.
That is that's what we're here for. People aren't here to listen to me. They're here to listen to your answers. So that was perfect. I enjoyed that. Um, yeah, I think there's a hint of truth in some of that whole thing. This stuff will make you happy, but they forget about the part where providing there's no bumps in the road on the
Yes,
way. I'm like, yeah, if you do all those things, you might be happy, but you know that if you get sick and you don't have insurance, or
yes.
you lose your job, or none of
Or you
that stuff
find the
gets
wrong
taken
job or
care
the
of.
wrong boss or you piss off the wrong person.
You talked about after 40, though. I used to joke with people I'm 54 now. About 50 is when I had to stop doing this. I used to say, like, well, I'm 49, but if I lived to 98, I'm only middle aged. Once you get past 50, that doesn't really have the same pull to it. Um, Alessa in this one is also a very interesting character. I love the fact that you created a character that can very much hold her own, but she's also not the biggest bad on the block. She's one of those things where she has. I don't think this is a spoiler. This is
No.
chapter one stuff. She has the ability to unravel people, which is just as disturbing as it sounds. But at this school, that makes her one of the lightweights almost.
Yes.
What gave you the ideas for some of these powers that, again, and if anybody hasn't read the back, this isn't X-Men, this isn't superheroes, this isn't even witches and warlocks. As you said, these are Ragnaroks, Antichrist, world breakers. These are some god tier level people.
I think with Alessa, a lot of it with her power was honestly self-indulgence. I like gore. I like writing gore. It's a lot easier to write gore if your main character can pull people apart in very simple ways. But with everyone else, I think it was examining monstrosity and the different ways we perceive monstrosity. Like there's one character, I'm not going to spell who has a voice that can unmake and create universes. And that is the thing that our society does find monstrous if you move away from the metaphorical. Somebody who's willing to speak up and will not be silenced and who will speak until things change. That frightens some people. And a few were a little bit obvious, and others were, I think, playing with tropes, playing with things that I've seen, playing with imagery that has stuck across my life, and trying to match them up with the archetypes that I wanted to play with in the book itself.
You had a very creepy librarian, by the way, too. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yay! I love it so much. All my librarian friends seem to approve very much of the librarian.
And again, without giving anything away, I'm not going to do any spoiler type stuff, but we hear the librarian early in the book, but we don't meet the librarian till later, and we don't know exactly what we're going to meet till we meet it. And yeah, I believe it was a she. She is a little creepy. Well, that's just what I'm saying.
I think my favorite part about her is she's still a librarian, even in the most horrible
Mm,
moments. She knows where all her books are, and that's as far as I'm going for spoilers.
yes. But you also gave her a very real reason why she is the way she is, and I love that backstory. So,
Thank you. She's one of my favorite characters.
by the way, for anybody who's watching this and doesn't like a certain level of gore, I will say, and I'm speaking in third person here, Cassandra did a very good job. Not third person, you know what I'm saying. Did a very good job of, though this is kind of aimed, it's not YA, but it's a little bit more PG-13 than I think you would have gone if you had gone for a full. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of gore, but I don't feel like you over emphasize some of the stuff. I do know a few horror authors that would have gone into very specifics about what was and where what says that wasn't supposed to be where it is now. Yeah, so you like I said, it's I don't like gore, especially anything like eyeballs and stuff like that, and it did not bother me, but I can see where you say you had a little fun with the gore. You definitely know what happened, I just don't feel like you spelled it out as much as you could have.
I think part of it, as much as I was having fun with it, is I don't think anyone in the cast, except for one person, even then it's questionable,
Mhm.
is truly evil. And I think writing anything that overemphasizes the gore and the violence that they suffer feels too gratuitous to me, almost too cruel. Because at the end of the day, these kids, they didn't ask for this, they were trapped here. They were lied to. It didn't feel fair. I know they're fictional characters that exist in my head, but
You did have some though with what I almost feel like is, the Rorschach complex. It's like, "No, I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me."
it's my favorite thing.
You had some characters that definitely knew exactly how sorry, mom, if you're listening to this, badass they were, and, weren't afraid to let people know it.
Yeah, it's a trope I love, just hands down.
Now, I don't think it's definitely I don't feel like set up for it, but do you see yourself maybe not a sequel per se, but writing in this world again?
There is a novella that I want to write based on the ending, just a
Okay.
continuation from the ending that I've sort of been idly describing to people as John Carpenter's take on John Wick. That's all I'm going to say.
No, trust me, I had a little John Wick vibe there going for a second too, so that I will be down if you write the novella, I will be down for it. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. I also wanna say again, no spoilers, absolutely loved the ending, love where you went with that. People just have to read it to figure out what that was. Oh my goodness, I apologize, it's been a hot minute since I read this now, I was trying to remember the name. There is a girl who kind of befriends her that we find out very specific things about at the end, and she's not who we think she is, and I think you know who I'm talking about without giving
Yes.
anything away. Uh,
Does it involve the flesh mecha later, specifically?
it involves, taking, a little, snack break on half of somebody.
Oh, yes. Yes, that is a different person.
Okay, how much did was that somebody you had in your mind from the beginning, or did that character kinda write itself as it went along? Because she was very layered.
She's always been there in my head. I think Hellebore was interesting. I think it went through 8 layers of revisions, partially because I realized entirely too late that I actually wanted to write a series based on this. But
Ah,
then we were supposed to only do one book. And so I tried to cram 3 books into one, and my editors had to like poke and pull. And that character in particular existed across all of it.
goodness.
And yeah, she's very layered because
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of history and thought that went into her that got compressed into this book.
Okay, yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, I could definitely see how this could have been a series as well. Uh, although it wasn't particularly long, so you must have really chopped things down. I'm looking at 276 pages here.
I think it was like 150,000 words, 140,000 words at one point, and my editors brought the axe down on it.
Wow, so what did they make you
I'm not
split
upset
it up?
about it. Huh?
So a lot of times you get that big, they'll make you split it up. They're just gonna like, "No, we're gonna compress a few things here."
Yes. I think Kelly recognized that this book was going to be its best when its meanness was emphasized. Like, even if you feel the gore was a little bit like velvet gloved at times, it's a book about brutality. It is a cruel book at the end of the day, and she just wanted that to be in the forefront. And I agree with her.
Kinda gave it the movie adaptation version of your original novel.
Yes.
Cut
Which
out
I
all
will
the
do.
extra.
Yeah.
Alright. So, you said, you're thinking about doing, possibly, we're not holding anybody to this, a novella might come out of it.
Maybe.
Um, Where are you obvious? Well, this is a stupid question. What are you writing right now? I'm sure you're working on something else at this point.
I am working on the edits for a short novella called Find Me Where It Ends. It's going to come out with Nightfire next year, and it's my first book that has no gore whatsoever. None. Not a single drop. No bloods, no entrails, no intestines, no eyeballs, nothing. It's so like in full disclosure, late last year I had like a very serious bout of suicidal ideations and spent a very long time basically dragging myself out of it. And I think part of it was, aside from everything else, was triggered by me going like, 40 is a good, if 40 was a good run. I have done more of my life than most ever will in their entire lifetimes. I have traveled the world. I have done everything I have ever set out to do. When people ask me if I have a bucket list, I shrug at them because I have done it all. And a little voice in my head went, well, if this is as good as it gets, why stay? And I've struggled with that kind of depression my entire life. I think ever since I was a teen, in fact. But it was the most seductive it had ever been because I didn't know how to say no. I was like, you know what? That is a very reasonable thought there. And so the book is very much the result of me, I guess, processing the process of recovery from that. It's about a woman whose family line is cursed. And when the women in the family are close to their deaths, it actually like arrives as a black dog. Hers is a very friendly German shepherd, pitch black, loves bacon sandwiches, really good boy, like the best boy. And the book deals with the idea of like having suicidal ideations when your life feels and looks perfectly fine, the right and wrong things that people say, what is necessary for recovery, how slow it is, how different it is than from what a lot of people talk about. But I think that book, in many ways, was also me wanting to honor the idea that if you've ever had suicidal ideations, it wasn't because you were weak or fearful. Sometimes it is because it feels comforting. Death, ultimately, even though none of us really want to get there, it is the end of pain. It is the end of suffering. It's all the stuff before that that is scary. But death is a comfort, which is why it's a fuzzy dog. It doesn't hate you. If there's anything that has ever loved you in your life, it is probably your death because it is yours and only yours and no one else's.
Well, we got deep really quick there.
I am told I get very existential at people.
No, no, no. That is fine. Um, on a semi-related note, you've got my number. You can text me anytime. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Aw.
Um, so, you have a dog guy in here too, but he's not nearly as nice as the one in your new book. Apparently, he was a little. By the way, that's anybody who's thinking about reading this book too. I will tell you, I love the fact we drop into this book in the middle of a very bloody scene, and then we spend the rest of our time going forwards and kind of backwards, and then we kind of meet up back where that first scene started. And I love the fact that you made us wait to find out what happened until the book is almost over. I think that was the perfect way to bring the reader along, where you could go into those background scenes and kind of see how we got here, but that also made you want to keep reading because you definitely wanted to find out. I was like, okay, but the opening scene, what happened? I need to know what happened. So I love that. Um, is there anything about this book? Because again, less than 300 pages. There's a lot of stuff that you don't find out till the end of the book. So I don't want to spoil anything. Is there anything about this book you'd want to mention that we haven't touched upon?
I mean, there were a whole bunch of things that I really enjoyed doing about it, but I think they all go to spoiler territory. Oh, wait, no, there's one thing I do need you to know.
Okay.
So when I first came out with the book, I put a call out and asked a bunch of friends and like basically social media, like, who wants to get murdered? And a whole bunch of people were very cheerily volunteering themselves in different ways. And there is one character in particular that is based on a very dear friend who is was very hands-on in figuring out the ways that character hurts another character, and it was a lot of fun. She was dealing with a lot of abuse at work, like genuinely bad stuff was happening. And so it was very cathartic for her, and it was very fun to just kind of design an evil little thing together.
Gotcha. It's one of the things I've found, the more authors I get to know that, yeah, you do have a chance of getting written into their book, but you're probably going to die.
Yes.
I
It's
sent
how we
a
show affection.
well, I sent a friend of mine one too. I saw it at the local bookstore, so I took a picture and I sent it to an author that I know, and all it said was, "Is if you were an I think it was, "If you were a character in my novel, you'd be dead already." It's like, "Ooh, ouch." The love, man. Oh, my word. Okie dokie. So we kind of covered this. By the way, again, congrats, bestseller list.
Thank you.
I feel like this interview may be even a little less stressful for you now that you already know it's a bestseller and you made it through your book tour.
Yes, actually, it is a bestseller in two different continents. Thank you, my friend.
Oh, no, I didn't know where else is it that best-selling at? UK?
It hit the bestseller list for the Sunday Times over the weekend in the
Yes.
UK.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, I'm glad to hear it because I love it. I've talked to a bunch of people on a couple of Discords I'm on that had been interested, and then I told them about it and what I thought about it, and like, oh, I got to pick that up. So
Yay!
you
Thank
definitely got
you.
some more sales coming in. Uh, it is again. I love the fact that I'm okay with the dark academia type thing. I like Scholomance and stuff like that, but that horror tinge instead of what's usually more of a fantasy witch and wizard
Mhm.
type tinge, that's what really pushed it over the top for me. Absolutely loved it. Can't wait again to see the novella if it gets written. And then, so just a couple of things then, not about the book, kind of a little couple wrap up things. Uh,
Yeah.
one, what are you reading right now, if anything?
I am rereading T. Kingfisher's Wolfworm, which is I think coming out from Tor. Mayfire or Tor, I'm not really sure which. Kingfisher historically has been very, very, very good at making me go, what the F with her works. And I think this one takes the cake. It uses botflies in ways that made me shudder, and that says a lot. So I'm rereading that just because my brain cannot deal with the idea of new content right now. But like to like broaden your question a little bit, the book I really want to recommend right now is AJ White's "You Were Never Meant to Be Human." It is
I've heard
holy crap, the most brutal, grossest, shocking. I can't believe the author went there. Like, oh my god, book that I've ever read while being very lovingly queer and comprehensive, and like it has an ending I think that I'll be thinking about even on my deathbed.
I definitely heard of that one. I'm gonna have to go back and look up some stuff, but yeah, definitely love that. And then Ursula, I love her stuff. I read What Moves the Dead not too long ago. So T. Kingfisher, absolutely on my list. Love her. Okay, so a question I like to ask people. The answer may be no, but do you
Yes.
have a skill, hobby, accomplishment, something that you'd like to talk about once in a while so people would talk to you about something besides writing all the time?
I wish more people would come pole dancing with me. I love pole dancing. It is currently my happy place. I pole dance and I weight lift primarily. And it always surprises people a little bit because I'm a tiny looking person. Like if you meet me when I'm in like loose clothing, although several friends have affectionately said I look like a human honey badger.
Gotcha.
And you know what? I'm okay with it. I like honey badgers.
Well, I know you don't have your video up here, but I swear, let me see if I can find this real quick. Pretty sure this is the one that I'd use because usually I take a picture from the from the actual interview for the image, but of course I had always have one up ahead of time. So yeah, you are not the tallest person on the planet. We will
I
go.
am not.
That's why anybody. Yes, that's jokingly why I called her the Wolverine at the beginning. So. uh, Couldn't resist that. Uh, but yeah, 5'4". That's a you don't need a particularly tall pole for that.
No, I actually have like the shortest possible pole you can buy for an apartment. And it's just fine. It is completely fine for me.
I've heard it's a heck of a workout, though. I don't have the shape for it, but I've heard it's a heck of a workout.
It is. There are weightlifters that I know who can't do this. I think partially because it's so focused on grip shrink and core shrink, but also a lot of it just hurts like dickens. I think that's something that most people don't realize. Half the pole moves that you see that look so impressive, it's the result of the pole dancer very intentionally smashing a metal pole into their bodies as hard as they can, so it's wedged against a bone and you are holding it in place while it just grinds down and while you're trying to look graceful and weightless. It's amazing therapy. Simply because when I'm doing it, I cannot be anxious about anything else. I am more focused on how much everything hurts.
Yeah, and not hitting the ground. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I can't remember his name. I think it's Jay something. His dog is Duty, if that'll tell anybody who knows him what it is. But there's a big bodybuilder guy, and for fun, he tries to do things, especially stuff that people send him that,
Oh,
especially
I know
women
who you're
doing it.
talking about. I love him.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, there are certain things, let's face it, there are certain things physically that women can do that men cannot do. I love that one where you see some woman try to get a guy to do the thing where she's kinda bent down, and then she puts one arm behind her back and
Yes,
then
I
the other
remember
behind her
that.
back. Guys, your center of gravity, your build, you cannot do that. You will face plant every time. I don't care how athletic, not possible. But yeah, he's adorable, and that dog's always in the way. So I always love that guy. All right. So then what else we got? Anything you want to talk about, even if it's not book related that we haven't already mentioned?
Nothing except I think tour ate my brain. Going on book tour is such a great honor and privilege. I'm so aware of how few authors, especially in this day and age, have the privilege of doing it, never mind just cross country. But oh my lord, getting on a plane every day, going to a new place, doing an event, passing out, getting on a plane again, your brain just melts.
Oh, I told you, and I want everybody to understand. Cassandra tried to do this interview earlier, try to fit it in after we had to reschedule, and I told her no because I looked at her schedule, and I don't think you had more than 1 day off anywhere, and I'm like, I want her to rest.
It was the kindest thing ever. I really appreciate it. If we had tried to do the interview, I think I would mostly have been going like greeble, greeble, greeble at my microphone.
Well, like I said, I looked at your schedule, and if it wasn't every day, it was because you needed an extra day to get to that next stop. It was crazy tight. Um, but
It
yeah,
was wild.
as a person who loves books, we do appreciate when you guys do the author or the book tours because then we get to meet you, obviously. But yeah, I also try to understand that you're exhausted by the end of that. That's all there is to it.
Oh god, I am so lucky I got Sean Hamill, who was an absolute dream and a wonderful audience in Dallas. Because I swear, by the second half of our end conversation, my brain shut down and went on vacation already. I was just like, "Oh god, I can't do this anymore."
I mean, it's basically a celebrity type thing. We're just like night after night after night. You think like rock stars. It's like, what city am I in? Where are we tonight?
Yes,
All right.
so much that.
And then, last thing I like to ask, and again, this is I ask every single author this just because of the fact I love my brick and mortars. Shout out to or more than one if you really want to. Shout out to a brick and mortar bookstore near you or that you're just a huge fan of.
Married bookstore because I love Paley there, and Paley and I did a small giveaway thing where Paley actually made a whole platter, like a ceramic platter inspired by Hellebore, and it's the coolest thing. I'm still doing personalizations and signing and stuff through them. Married, I think it's like 2 hours upstate from New York City. And of course, like shout out to my home bookstore, Astoria Bookshop, which is cute and lovely and does like bookshop date nights where you can, I think, go there, rent the bookstore for a set number of hours, and they'll string up cute fairy lights and let you and your beloved just wander the bookstore quietly and read to some music and have snacks, and it's like the cutest thing ever.
Nice. And then is that the one too? Like, if somebody really wanted an autographed copy of Library of Hellebore, is that the one they might look at?
Married Bookstore will be the one you would want to look at, but if you go to the bookstores across New York City, chances are I've probably snuck in to sign some copies at some point.
Perfect. Perfect. I know some people have to, they're not near a bookstore and they have to go online, but I do love my brick and mortars. So love my independence, especially.
Yes.
All right. So I think that is probably going to be it. I appreciate you taking out your time coming out here and talking about this book. This one was not originally on my radar. And then I love those people at Tor. They sent me a thing about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to look that up. Started reading it. And I was like, I've got to have Cassandra on here because we've got
Yay.
to talk about this book. Um, so appreciate you. I'm probably going to let you have the rest of your night back to yourself, get a little bit more rest. And we're looking forward to the next book coming out.
Thank you, thank you. And thank you again for having me and also being so nice about it all.
Not a problem. All right.